Hi guys, thank you so much for coming today. I appreciate giving up some time to do this. I thought it might be easy to kind of talk about goals of what we're going to try and accomplish today. And I should say I assume that everybody's actually read the proposals.
Yes.
Sometimes it's a dangerous assumption, but it's a heck of a lot more fun for everybody and easier if you have. Also, hopefully you've had the chance to read the score sheet so that you know what questions came up and what people, because then we could add to it rather than duplicate what the proposal review team already came up with. So, cool. I think this is going to be great. Our goal, obviously, is to make sure that we fill in any holes of the information that we already know. So some of the questions that they came up with and some others that we have is what we really kind of want to get answered. We want to give them, obviously, an opportunity to get to know who we are as an organization. This is always a great opportunity for wonderful not-for-profits to know who the Women's Foundation is. And so I think, Elaine, would you be willing to do kind of a little bit on the Women's Foundation for us? Sure. Okay, cool. And then why don't we break down what questions we have into a few areas that each of us can take an area. Do you think that'll work?
Sounds good.
Okay, cool. When we get in there, by the way, let's just do a brief introduction, besides Women's Foundation, who we all are, so they actually know us, and we certainly want to ask them about who they are and get a sense, too, of what roles each of them have.
Do we know who we're meeting with from their organization yet?
Not really. You know, it tends to change from the time we get the email, so we'll kind of play it by ear. We usually tend to have program director, somebody really running the program. Usually the executive director is there, and hopefully people from the board usually, but we never really know. So we will find out when we get in there.
Okay.
Cool. I think it seems like the questions we kind of came up with fall into 4 different areas. It looks like there's kind of the structure around the classes and how they recruit and how the program's going to run. It looks like there's the tracking of it, the measurement, the training, and all of that. I think is another one with their challenges. I think there were definitely questions about what these cats are and kind of how that came to be.
Yeah, I definitely had questions about
Good,
that.
perfect. So
I'd be happy
you
to
do that?
that.
Okay, perfect. That'd be great.
Questioning.
Good.
By the way, I was thinking it might actually be helpful to hear how on earth they even came up with this idea.
Right.
It's such a creative idea. Rather than did they just write it to the test kind of, or was
Right.
it something organic?
Absolutely.
That would probably fit into it.
Sure.
And then the last area we know we always have questions is budget. And it's one.
I have questions definitely.
Okay, cool. Will you take that one then?
Sure.
Okay, cool. So that leaves, we have the classes and the recruiting is one area, and the challenges, tracking.
I want to take the challenges and the training.
Okay, perfect. All right, then I'll take the how do they recruit and how do they actually structure the program. Okay, cool.
All right.
Perfect.
I think that covers it.
All right, great. Wonderful. Well, then let's go do this.
Hello.
Hi, guys.
Come on in.
Ready for us?
How are you?
I'm Bethel.
Hi, Susan.
Nice to
Bethel.
meet you.
Hi, my name is Colleen.
Bethel.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Good.
Lynn.
Hi, Lynn.
This is great.
Susan, nice to meet you.
Colleen.
Hi, Jacqueline.
Yes.
I'm so glad you're serious.
It's so nice.
Nice to meet you. Have a seat.
Erica.
I'm
Jacqueline.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Elaine, Erica, you.
Hi, Erica. Good to see you.
Comfortable.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
So, I'm so glad you ladies came home today.
Thanks for having us. Definitely. We've been looking forward to this.
So have we.
Good. Good. Well, a couple of us were also on the proposal review team, but some others have just joined in for this. So, not sure, if there's a plan that you prefer. We want to do first is introduce ourselves so we have a sense of who you guys are, what roles we each play in this, and then we'll kind of talk, hopefully you can do an introduction about the program and then we'll have questions. So.
Well, I will start. First, our program manager is Susan Westerlake, and she's actually the founder of our organization, which is 10 years old now. Just like you, I've been reading about you in the papers.
Good.
And Colleen Krause is on our board of directors. And I'd like to know, are you doing only art with this project, or?
Absolutely, yeah, that's actually a really good question. And
I couldn't come to the forum this year, so
Right.
we were just not quite sure.
No, absolutely. Why don't we fill you in a little bit about who we are as an organization, and then we can kind of talk about our granting process a little bit.
Okay, I'll give you a little background and include how we decide what we're doing each year as far as our grants. First of all, the San Diego Women's Foundation's mission is to educate and inspire women to engage in significant and sustainable philanthropy in the San Diego region. How we do that is we recruit members who make a commitment to put in $2,000 a year for a minimum of 5 years. So that's how our membership is formed. Our purpose is to, as I said, educate and inspire women. We want to provide support to community organizations in the San Diego region. We want to develop mutually beneficial relationships with the organizations that we fund. We call those organizations our community partners. And we like to stay involved with them. And our mission ultimately is to develop generations of women philanthropists. The way we do that is each year we have a grant cycle. We have 6 focus areas, which are health and human services, arts and culture, education, environment, employment and economic development, and education.
Civil society.
And civil society. Thank you. Usually miss one in the list. This year, our grant focus is arts and culture. So last year we funded environment, next year our grant focus will be education. So this year is strictly arts and culture. And in the 10 years that we have been in existence, we have funded more than $1.9 million into the community to 53 community partners. And at the same time, we've built an endowment of more than $1.9 million. So that's basically how it works. Once we fund an organization, we stay involved. As I said, we consider each organization a community partner, and we assign a liaison. Someone typically from the site visit team would become a liaison with that organization and continue to follow through over the course of the year to see how things are going and report back.
And beyond.
So you consider that both a promise and a threat. So we're not an organization, honestly, that just gives a check and walks away. So a lot of organizations really enjoy that because it adds a lot to the relationship, but we also have different expectations in that we really do want to know how this is going. And as Elaine mentioned, we care about sustainability. So some of the questions we'll talk about today is about that because that's very important to us. We don't want to just fund into the community if it's not going to go anywhere after the first year. So.
How many proposals did you receive this year?
Every year is different. This year we had about 65 actually. You know, as you know, arts, you certainly experience it more than anybody, is funding is really hard for, you know, government and everything else that are looking for not-for-profits to fill in the gaps. So the way our process works is that we actually, so we got all those proposals, we narrow it down to usually about 20 for the site visits, and there's teams of all of us who go around and do that. And then we all get back together and narrow it down for the ballot, and we go from there. Unfortunately, you know, we only have about $200,000 to grant usually, and it's tough with programs as big as this. That becomes fewer that we can grant. So, you know, we're glad that you guys have made it to this step, and we'll see what happens after this.
And we have a very rigorous process, and the 200 or so members of the Women's Foundation are counting on us to do very thorough job of vetting each organization. So you can be proud that you made it to the site visit, and a lot of people will know about your organization, whether or not you do get funded for this year.
Oh, that's great. Well, we're
I'd
really
like to,
honored.
Susan, do you mind if I tell them a little bit about the organization?
Yes.
Okay.
Go to it.
Well, our organization, like I mentioned before, we started 10 years ago. And we just started with Hearts for the Elder, but this has grown, especially since 2005 or 2006 or so, and the funding got cut to the public school system for the arts. So we added a community arts division and a youth and arts division.
With their support and the interest of the kids who were in the, participated in the mural project, we feel like, you know, we'll fill up the 230 kids, no problem. In fact, we think
How
we'll
many
probably have a
kids
big.
participated last year in the mural project?
I don't know, Erica, do you remember exactly how
There
many that was?
were 250, and we've already asked how many would like to re-sign up, and all of them signed up again.
So you had 250 out of a 900-person school take part in the mural. Wow.
It's really
It's not just one mural.
Right, of course, but I mean throughout the course of, well, maybe we.
But again, that's going to art classes.
Right.
And then taking what they learn in the class.
Right.
And then going out and applying it to various walls, buildings, overpasses.
Sure. That's 25% of the school. That is amazing.
Oh,
Okay. Well, that's actually one of the questions we asked. Maybe we can go to that one next. Is really how do you recruit to get these? Because it looks like a pretty rigorous schedule. And then if you could touch on that too. So how do you recruit and what does the schedule look like of what they take in terms of classes and stuff?
Okay, recruit students,
Yeah.
well, for this
So
project,
when you say 230, is it 230 distinct students then, or could there be
Yes.
some overlap in terms of their participation?
230 people have signed up.
Okay, so some of the students might take one class, some might take
Yes.
2, 3,
Yes.
4, kind of thing. Okay. Okay, so at least you're not having to worry about logistics of 230 over there.
Right.
So that's what we're trying to figure out. We're like, how do you do drawing and sculpture with 230 kids? We couldn't figure that one out. All right, that definitely helps. So it looks like each be about 8 weeks or so, and then they go on to there's an open house and they go to the topic.
They
Or,
were, let me see, we have 36 weeks in all, 3 quarters, but they
so
weren't
it's
all
12
equal.
weeks.
The winter quarter is shorter than the other 2.
Right, because it looked like there was a fall open house, pretty early on. So
Yes.
okay, but the classes might continue after the open house per se. It's not like
Oh,
it's
sure.
graduation
Oh,
per se.
yes.
Okay, okay. And, good, I think those answer some of the questions that I have. Do you want to?
Yeah, some of the additional questions we had, I mean, this is a very innovative program. And so we really, one of the things we wanted to understand is you've got the art component, and that's, I think, pretty easy to understand. But then the idea of having the students involved in planning and presenting and all these other activities, we'd really love to hear more about what the challenges are in doing that with these, inner city kids. Do they typically come in ready to go on that? In general, what are the challenges? What's the hardest part of this?
Well, the kids love the programs that we do. So when thinking about the challenges would be,
Do you find that, for example, when you're talking about doing the open houses and presenting and planning for these various, working with the port and all that, some of this you may not know, but does it take training for these kids to be able to ready to jump in and that's pretty sophisticated stuff that you're asking.
well, our social studies teacher, Grant Posner, is going to be helping them with some of the community aspects of this particular.
The data piece of that was all about measuring results. It was very interesting to talk about the database and all. Can you give us a little more information about how you're, for example, is
What are you tracking?
yeah, exactly. What are you tracking and
And how will you
the
track
art-
students
the
beyond
art-
high school, because you have a
5 and 10
5-year and
year,
10-year
yes.
measurement period.
The art teachers following each class come back to our offices and enter in the database, the reports, the student records, and the lesson plans are all kept in there also. And what we're tracking is the pluses and minuses of what they go through. All kinds of comments go in there.
So it's not just grades, it's not just what
No,
their
no,
grade
no, no.
was for the art class, or their overall.
In fact, we do
GPA.
not grade them. We don't feel that that is the mission of our class here.
But you are following their academic progress as part of this, aren't you?
We talked with Grant Posner, he's our liaison over at the school. And if anybody else's classes are, if they're falling behind in some area, we do look at that.
Because one of the things you talk about is and I know that's something that's always been talked about, when art is cut, unfortunately, it does affect their other skill sets. And so you do talk about how obviously the students with art education, proven to have more highly developed critical thinking skills and score higher. You need to be able to track that in order to know whether it's making a difference for these 230 kids. So,
Well, yes, there will be graphs and comparisons in there with the other kids in the school
okay.
who didn't participate in this program.
So you will still take a look at the
And
test scores.
also they are measured against other schools in San Diego and then the national records.
Okay.
And are they measured against their performance the previous year before they were involved?
Well,
Or I
all
guess
we
not
have is
involved.
whatever records were taken the previous year.
I have one other question related to challenges. We were talking about challenges with Lynn earlier, and I guess one thing that seems very challenging to me is actually having 230 students create, assemble, and deliver these cats to 16,000 different residents, if I read that correctly, in Sherman Heights.
Well, you're partially correct with that. It's not just the students who are assembling them. The PTA is going to assist with that. We've already got the gym lined up for 10 days.
I apologize, kind of the last questions, we know it's important to go over the budget, so.
Oh, yes.
Before, and then.
Of course.
and-
No,
and-
apologies necessary.
And then we need to wrap up, I apologize.
Okay, I had some questions on the budget, specifically, what would happen at this point if you didn't receive the funding from the Women's Foundation? Because you're asking us to put the substantial bulk of the out-of-pocket cost as the grant. So if you don't get $66,000 from the San Diego Women's Foundation, what happens? You don't list any other potential contributors.
Well, we do have EFCO, and we
Right,
also
the
have.
actual contributors.
Yes,
But in
and
terms of
FedEx
others.
is with us no matter what.
Right.
I feel like we can apply to FedEx as a national arts program that they recently launched. So through our board member connection, we feel like we have a pretty good shot at submitting and being funded through them. And we actually have something in the works that we have been working on since we submitted the grant to you a couple months ago. And then there's also a possible funding source through the Port of San Diego funds public art.
And the Padres called a few days ago.
Oh, really?
They
That's
wanted
great news.
to put in 10,000. So if, for some reason, by fall, we don't have the full 66,000 that we're looking for in salaries, we will scale down actually the classes to
I
be
see.
one class
Okay.
time,
Okay.
but the cats will still go on.
All right. And then one of the things that the Women's Foundation is always concerned about is sustainability of any program that we fund. So at this point, FedEx has committed, for example, to provide a great deal of out-of-pocket expenses at their expense. What happens after this year, assuming you did get the Women's Foundation grant and you were able to do exactly what you had proposed in this grant application? Then what happens in year two?
Is there any cost for the students who participate? Do they need to pay a fee to participate, or do you cover
No,
their
actually, this is free of charge to our students. However, when they are manning their booths at Art Walk in April, if they happen to sell any of their work, we encourage them to buy their own art supplies.
And how many art teachers are you going to be able to pay with that
It's
54,000?
11.
Yeah, 11 part-time instructors.
Yeah.
And how about the social studies teacher? Is there a payment for?
Well, he's paid by the school system.
So this is just part of his job.
Kind of like a club or
He's a volunteer.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, thank you guys so much. I
really
appreciate
appreciate
your time
it.
and we appreciate it. And like I said, it goes through a process from here, and you will be hearing from us as an organization either way, certainly. But we appreciate everything you're willing to share with us.
Can you tell us who else you have funded in the past?
The website.
I was just going to
Oh,
say,
really? Yeah, actually,
if you go to the
good.
San Diego Women's Foundation website, you can see a list of all of our community partners by year.
And
a
6
short-
years ago, we did arts and culture, so you can go and see which organizations. we
And a
went
short description of each grant. Now, before we leave, is there anything else we should have asked you? Is there anything else you think we should know?
I'm actually interested in membership. Do you have any events coming up?
Oh, we
Oh,
would love to
absolutely.
have you
Yeah, we'd be
come
happy
and
to.
join
Terrific.
us. We have many events where we include guests and give you an opportunity to learn more about the San Diego Women's Foundation and meet some of our absolutely incredible women.
Absolutely.
If you
And-
have
and
a
in
card, you can give us
particular-
your card and we'll make
Yes.
sure that you get an email.
Happy to put you on our list.
In mid-May is when we'll be announcing who gets this year's grants, and then in early June, we have our granting celebration, and we would love to have you come and participate, whether you're being awarded a grant or not.
Oh, I would thank you.
Great, it's really a very inspiring evening.
It is. Thank you again very much for the time.
Great to meet all of you.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you so much for coming to meet us.
Wow.
Okay, I think that was
What'd you
good
guys think?
meeting.
Yeah.
I think we got,
Very good. I think we got a lot of answers to our questions.
Good.
They were very helpful.
Good.
in giving us details.
we have glad that they do have some other backup funding sources as well, in case,
Yes.
you know, they don't get a grant from us.
Right.
It sounds like they have at least some other options. which is good.
They've got some good connections.
So we have a few goals, a few things that we need to actually do now. Our job is mostly over, but not completely over. First and foremost is we need to go through and write up our evaluation.
Right.
So we need a group consensus on what our evaluation is.
Mhm.
And hopefully one person can then take that and type that up and submit that for us. We also will need somebody who will write up the summary for that ballot meeting.
Okay.
And because obviously that's important, that is our key argument, so we need to make sure, and I assume, whoever is willing to write that, a good writer in the crowd.
I can do
could-
one or the other.
Cool,
You
and
do
then,
one and I'll do
We
the
can
other.
do- yeah.
and then obviously just email it to each of us and see what we
Yeah, I
think.
mean, I know
because-
what I did last year with my group is we each had input, so one person wrote it out, did a first draft, and then we
Perfect.
kind of
Circulated.
circulated it.
That-
and
that
then-
works
And
pretty
then,
well.
everybody puts in their two
Perfect.
pieces and improves the whole thing,
Right.
so.
Good, because we need that to be a combination of the facts and what it's gonna accomplish, but also the emotion of
You want to be
why.
persuasive,
Absolutely.
assuming that we are going to.
Assuming, my vote certainly is. what do you think? Is this something you wanna go forward with?
It seems like a really good program. I have to admit, I still have a hard time believing that many kids are gonna be involved, but they have the track record. They have really good answers for my questions.
I feel comfortable putting it forth to our members, so we need to make sure we do, otherwise we end right now, so.
Okay.
Okay.
No, I'm I share Lynn's concern that it is a bit ambitious, and, I guess the good thing is that they did have 250 kids participate last year.
Right.
So assuming that a good number of those participate, and they have some new ones who didn't participate last year that want to join
Right.
this year, then, they can certainly make the numbers in terms of students. In terms of the volunteers to hand out those toolkits, I still have some concerns about how they're gonna get 16,000 kids done in 8 days, but they seem to feel like they could pull together enough, parent and community volunteers.
Cool.
The fact that the leadership was so strong,
Mhm.
you look at
Yes.
the awards and things, that's almost the only reason I would actually think that they can pull it off, that I'd want to fund them.
I think this is worth putting in front of the ballot selection
Terrific.
meeting. Obviously, we don't know if they're going to make the
Right.
ballot at this point, but I
Right.
think it's a strong enough candidate
Perfect.
to be
And
considered.
then there are two other key things then. One is that who would want to be the spokesperson up there to do that little heart tug at the ballot meeting? Because obviously, again, it's presented equally amongst all the groups, but we do need that heart tug, so that persuasion. And we also need to know who would want to be the community liaison? Who wants to hang out with this group for the year
You
afterward?
get first dibs, do you want it?
If nobody else felt strongly, I would love to, but I certainly wouldn't want to take it from anybody else who really feels strongly about it, so your call. Anybody?
I think we should do it. I'd love to get up in the meeting if it
Okay.
gets to that and do the presentation
Terrific.
to the,
So we'll do the writing, you'll do the
Okay.
talking, and
Sounds
you'll do
good.
the liaison.
The connecting, sounds good. Thanks so much, you guys.
All right.
Wonderful.